This should be played at high volume.
Welcome to Outta Pocket. Here's your host, Michael Davis.
Welcome to Outta Pocket with Michael Davis on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. And this is not your TGI Friday lineup. That was this past Friday. Happy April Fools, everybody. We're going to try to not bring any false news. If you've been on your social media and you've been looking and you're like, oh my gosh, Duke's field is now blue this season. That was a lie. Okay, don't get fooled today. But this is Outta Pocket. This is your escape from April Fools, which is one of my favorite holidays, by the way. We're joined by Carsen Williams today on the show. We'll be joined a little later on, hopefully, by Zach Colburn, who now writes for the Watauga Democrat, and now producer Desmond Johnson. And we have a lot to talk about because this past weekend was the Elite Eight, and now we know who's going to be in the Final Four next weekend. Zach joining us live via satellite as well. And so I wanted to pose to you guys, Duke season obviously came to an end. We're going to talk about Duke's loss, and then we're going to talk about State's win and how impactful that was. But I wanted to go team by team right here. Duke loses State in the Elite Eight. I just want a recap of Duke's year. And Carsen, I'm going to start with you. Was this a disappointment? How do you think this season went?
Yeah, it was a disappointment all the way through and through. We had Flip coming back, we had Proctor coming back, Roach coming back for another year, plus a great group of freshmen. You expect more. Like Proctor took a real step backwards this season. I don't know what happened because I loved him last season. I don't know if it was that he was being played differently, but he just wasn't the same player as he was last year. I thought that most of the freshmen disappointed. Mark Mitchell was a disaster. He was awful all year. McCain was really the only player on Duke who I thought played up to his potential, and even then, it was a disappointment all the way.
I would slightly disagree with that because, especially when you look at the perspective of everybody counting Duke out after that first weekend because they lost to Carolina, that final game, they lost to State, their first ACC tourney appearance. And to make it to the Elite Eight is a feat in of itself. Zach, what are your thoughts on Duke? Is this a failure or was this a success?
I thought it was a little bit of both, to be honest. You had your good, getting to the Elite Eight. You won 27 games, but there was also some lows. I mean, you got swept by your rival. You didn't win the ACC tournament, and I found a number last night that kind of disturbed me a little bit. You look at how Duke performed against their Tobacco Road opponents. They went 2-5 this year. I mean, that's just not a good number to have. And I kind of agree with Carsen on player personnel. I think a lot of guys took a step back this year. I mean, Tyrese, he missed time due to injury, but he was too inconsistent. Mark Mitchell he could cook at times, but then there were times he was non-existent this year. And Flip, he was off more than he was on. But I think a lot of that also has to attribute was Flip's freshman year. He was playing behind Derek Lively, so he could play a 4. This year, he had to play a 5, and he just showed that he's not the 4 is going to be where he needs to be. And Jeremy Roach showed signs that he could be that senior, but there were times he disappeared as well. So it was just too much, not enough consistency this year.
And I would agree with the Flip and Lively aspect. Like if Lively came back to this team and had a real rim protector, so Flip wouldn't have to play out of position, I think this Duke team goes a little bit further. Des, what are your thoughts?
You were the preseason number 2 team in the country. You were picked by the media to win the ACC regular season. I don't understand this whole this is okay. What just happened? You just lost to a double-digit NC State in the Elite Eight. Like, no, this is not a good year for Duke. Like, what has happened? What has happened to the Duke fan base where you've lowered your expectations to accept whatever just happened that year as being a good year? This is not Duke standard. Duke standard is Final Four or bust. You didn't get there. You lost to NC State twice in the past 3 weeks. You got swept by Carolina this year. Like, the highlight of your year has been the upcoming recruiting class that's coming in next year. Like, that's been the highlight of the year for Duke. You didn't even make it to the ACC tournament final. Like, no, this was not a good year for Duke. This was not a good year. The fan base was turning on the team mid-season. I've watched people in Facebook threads and Twitter literally cuss out John Shire for decisions made in the game, or wishing Flip hadn't came back, or wishing he would go ahead and leave. Like, these are things that you guys have said, the Duke fans, about your team. And now you guys want to flip it into, well, this was an okay year. We made it to the Elite Eight. You know, everything's fine. You know, we're good to go. No, you're not. No, you're not. You just lost to an 11 seed NC State team. The whole run was inflated. You beat 2 double-digit seeds to get to the Sweet 16. You play Houston. They lose their number 1 All-American Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year 8 minutes into that game, where it was a rock fight to begin with. And you guys are walking around with a badge of honor like, well, we beat Houston. They're 1 seed. You didn't beat Houston. Shed wasn't even out there. Like, this logic blows my mind where Duke fans were. And then last night, I come home from a great Easter dinner, seeing my family and everything, and I watched the end of that game, and NC State bullied Duke in the second half. Like, all these Duke fans are pushing against this whole soft notion. First of all, I'm not the one that made that up. The whole country's been calling you soft all year, including some of you fans from Duke. In games, you guys have been calling yourselves soft. So then you get upset with me for pointing it out again for the umpteenth time. And instead of giving props to State for beating you and coming back the way they did and taking control of that game, most of the fans I came across yesterday turned their focus to Carolina and talking about Carolina and how they lost earlier and all this other gibberish or whatever. Like, your focus is on the wrong thing. Shout out to NC State. They are doing fantastic work right now. I'm curious to see where this goes, but your season was an absolute failure in terms of Duke standard and where you guys have typically been for the past 25 years.
So real quick, like, because last week when UNC lost, you mentioned like you're proud of the team, how they fought. Do you think that was a failure to get out before they did?
Not what compared to Duke. I don't compare what Carolina did compared to Duke. We swept them this year. It was a failure of Carolina to make it to the Final Four because they were a 1 seed. They should have made it to the Final Four. Like, they were supposed to make it to the Final Four, and they just didn't get the job done. But I said I can live with the fact that Carolina lost 89-87 to Alabama, a 4 seed, with my All-American first teamer going 0 for 9 from the 3-point range. Like, I can live with losing by 2 when my All-American can't hit the side of a barn that night. Like, that happens. It's basketball. What I would not be able to accept is DJ Burns, refrigerator size, dancing around me the entire second half, leading this team. They scored 18 more points than you in the second half. Like, how can you sit here and be happy about the season as a whole?
I mean, because we did beat Houston, like, and people are trying to distract
from that version of Houston, not the version of Houston that was near the number 1 in the AP poll all year. You didn't beat that team. That team was discombobulated like the whole night after Shed went out. Like, it was clear the floor general was no longer on the floor, and even then, it was still a dogfight. Like, it wasn't like you guys just ran away from Houston. Like,
well, the whole narrative is like Houston's been a complete team because they have a loaded roster. Duke, was not supposed to be there as a 4 seed. They were supposed to lose to Houston. And then NC State has been a miraculous underdog.
They've been the best team in the country. Desmond, I agree with most of the things you say there. I can't like find a silver lining in the entire year other than McCain proved that he's one of the best freshmen in the nation.
Yeah.
Other than that, complete disappointment. What I will say, NC State has been the best team in the country for the past probably 8 games. They've been incredible. DJ Burns is sensational. I love him. And this is what I'll say. I hate that Duke lost, but if we're gonna lose, I'm okay with it being to that team. I really am, because of who they are. First off, I always love an underdog story. And because they've been playing so well, and because they're a bad positional matchup for us. We don't have a rim protector. Filipowski is is Sharman compared to DJ Burns, and then we don't have a guy like DJ Horn who we can just give the ball to and say, go get a bucket. We haven't had that guy all year. So I'm okay with losing to that team. But we're Duke. And just like Desmond said, are we going off of what the fans said? Because they did say that we were going to lose first weekend. Desmond, you said we were going to lose first weekend.
Yeah,
but,
should have.
but we're Duke. We don't go off of we have different expectations.
Now I will say I didn't expect you guys to play 2 double-digit seeds the first weekend when I said that. Like I expected you guys to, and even so, I didn't expect James Madison to have tired legs or whatever ended up happening in that game. But even so, to use that as the badge of honor for Duke that they got this far when the path was what it was. I usually don't crack on people and the path that they took to get to the Final Four because it's a crapshoot, really. But not like this, Duke fans. Y'all are better than this. Like,
I agree.
Yeah, like what are y'all doing? Like, they've resorted to just like jokes and memes and just trying to pile on Carolina for not making the Elite Eight or whatever. When in actuality, Duke was ranked higher to start the year. They were picked to win the ACC to start the year, and they didn't do it. You have nothing to show for this year. Like, what did you win this year?
But what has UNC won this year?
We won the ACC regular season title. We swept our rivals. Like we got a 1 seed. Like we finished in the AP top 4. Like we won things this year. Like we have a first team All-American in our starting lineup. Like there's plenty. Hubert Davis won Coach of the Year for the ACC. Like they won plenty of stuff. What did Duke win?
It's true. And the thing is, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to North Carolina.
No.
They're a different team, and they completely outplayed us this year, just like NC State outplayed us this year. John Shire got outcoached multiple times this year, including last night. When he put Mark Mitchell in, when Kyle Filipowski went out, I wanted to scream at my TV. We're down by 10, and you put in a player who's completely offensively like a negative. Why? What's the thought process there?
You said something earlier about regression. Kyle Filipowski was a first-round draft pick last year, and clearly was based off of potential because he's gone backwards in terms of his game. Like I can't see him getting drafted in the first round this year, and a lot of Duke fans have been asking the same thing. Like this guy was supposed to be a first-round pick. Like they turned on Flip this year.
Well, with what Zach said, like Flip is meant to play the 4. He's not meant to play the 5. Like he was playing out of position all year because Lively left. And that could be an issue for Duke. Like you look at, does McCain go pro? Does Proctor go pro? Does Roach come back for another season? Does Flip go pro? Zach, who do you see staying on this team and who do you see leaving?
That's what I've been kind of wrapping my brain around the last, 24 hours. I mean, I feel like, Flip's gone. I think McCain leaves. Roach, he could come back because he has that option, but considering he tested the waters last year, I don't know if lightning strikes twice. I feel like, you got some, role players. Stewart, I think I'd love to see if he can come back for another year. I mean, Young's done. I mean, Foster, I think, comes back. But Mitchell's a question mark but not because he's going to declare. I think either he stays or he transfers because I've been hearing over the last 2 years, there's been some talking about he could transfer, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did, considering what Duke's got coming in next year.
Wow. Carsen?
Yeah, so I was actually going to tweet about this earlier today, and then I thought that I would talk about it on here, so I'm glad I didn't. So Jared McCain, I think he's going to stay. I think that he loves being at Duke. He's always got a smile on. He smiles more than any player I've probably ever seen. He's in game. He's always got a huge smile on his face. He really loves being here, I think. So I think he's going to stay. Caleb Foster, I think he's going to transfer. I don't think that there's enough time for everybody, especially guards. Jeremy Roach, I think he might exercise his last year and stay.
He better not. All these Duke fans have been clowning Armando Bacot for all this time.
I agree.
Jeremy Roach stays for a 5th year. You will never hear the end of it from Carolina fans. I swear. Like
I completely agree with you. Well, I've never been one of those people. I don't care that Armando Bacot. He knows he's not going to the NBA. Stay in college and try to win what you can. I agree. So I think Jeremy Roach might stay. Proctor, I don't know. I don't think he could make it. I don't think he would get drafted right now if he tried to go to the draft. I don't think he's good enough. And then Sean Stewart, I think, will probably transfer just because he didn't get a lot of playing time. Ryan Young is gone. Mark Mitchell, I pray he transfers. And Flip is gone.
So pray transfer.
Oh my gosh! Every time I see him on
Dude,
the
you're a
screen,
Mark Mitchell
I get-
hater, bro.
oh, you are right. I am. How you can't be a negative, that much of a negative offensively these days? It just doesn't work. We're playing 4-on-5, and he's not like some transcendent defender. You know, he can't impact the game. He's a negative. And it's so clear when I watch. I was really screaming at my TV when I saw Flip go out and he put Mark Mitchell in. Why? You have to put Ryan Young in right there. Ryan Young had been playing decent against DJ Burns too. John Shire has some questions to answer. I have not been happy with him this year at all.
Great recruiter. He's a great recruiter.
Yes, he is.
He had a couple of games this year where I agree, where some questionable substitution patterns, things of that sort. And that happens to coaches. They were questioning Hewert for playing Paxton Wojcik in the Sweet 16 instead of Trimble and Cadeau in the second half. To be honest, I've watched this Duke team enough times this year where, yes, I'm not a Duke fan, but I can be objective when it comes to when I see I know a good Duke team when I see it. Like, I can sit here and go, okay, they're going to be a problem, that kind of thing. And the last time I said that about a Duke team was 2019, the Zion, Cam Reddish, RJ Barrett team, because they were scary. Like, it was like, oh, okay, Duke might do something this year. I never caught that vibe with this year's team. Like, they felt like the island of misfit toys. Like, they're like a bunch of parts that individually they were good or 5 stars in high school or whatever, but they never really congealed into Duke. You know what I mean? Like this thing where somewhere in this game, Duke is going to try to take control of this game. And they never started doing that. And it got later and later in the year. And then teams started figuring out, oh, Duke's weakness is inside. Like, they don't have anything inside, really. If you've got a banger, you can get flip and foul trouble. And then after that, it's like they have really nothing. Sean Stewart, I guess, and he came on late in the year. But it boggles my mind whenever we talk about Duke and this whole idea of being soft or whatever. A lot of the Duke fans confuse soft with sucks. And I've said before, that's not the same thing. They're half the field in the NCAA tournament could be considered soft because they're shooting 43s a game. Soft is a mentality. Soft is a style of play. Carolina's not soft. They bang in the paint. State bangs in the paint. Lord knows Purdue and UConn do. Like, that's their thing. Like, there's a difference. And Duke, if you're a true Duke fan and you watch this team, all 30-something games they played, you know deep down in your heart, this Duke team is not built that way. They're not built to bang in the paint. They don't have the personnel. So when someone calls your team soft, I can get it that you're upset about it, but you got to accept it because you watched it. You watched all of it and saw what it was. I don't know if any of these players are first-round draft picks from Duke, to be honest. Like, Flip, I guess, is kind of borderline, but maybe McCain. And if he comes back, and we're talking about who's going to stay or go, we're saying it as if it's the player decision. It's really not. It's really Shire and Duke's decision because 6 of these guys got to go because you got 6 freshmen coming in. And we just watched Carolina do this where they shuttled off most of the roster and brought in who they wanted. Duke's about to go through the same thing. And I would suggest actually using the transfer portal this year because he didn't use it last year at all. And the team stagnated. So I don't know who's going to decide to go. McCain's the only one that probably could choose to go to the NBA and get drafted first round.
I'll say this. I think John Shire gets a lot of flack, and people don't realize he is in his second year of coaching. He has not lost less than 10 games per year. He's been 27-9 each year. Okay. So that's about 75% of games. Yeah, that's 75% of games. I'm good at math, kind of. Okay. And he took this team further than it went last year. And he has went into shoes that are almost insurmountable to fill in Coach K's shoes. Like, I feel really good about John Shire. I know there's going to be a learning curve, but if the learning curve after year 2 is Elite 8, I'm okay. And especially when you start figuring out, okay, what kind of team does Shire want as a Duke team? then he'll be able to fill it out. And of course, we're going to need that rim protector because we missed it with Lively. And one of the big guys in the tournament still is DJ Burns with NC State. And he is a huge reason why NC State has advanced their first Final Four since 1983 and doing so as an 11 seed, doing so after winning the ACC tournament and keeping Kevin Keats on for, I guess they had 2 more years to his contract with those incentives. So this is first team ever with 14 plus losses to make the Final Four. They beat every team that was a higher seed than them on their way there. I don't know if we can explain this. Is it magical? Is it Jim Valvano, doing his work? And that's my question to you guys. Did you see this coming? Or was there a moment in the season or the postseason where you're like, okay, this could actually happen? Zach.
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
One of those things that you can't describe. I mean, it's just, you're like, it's like the state survive and advance 2.0, but you know how ACC Network had, the class that saved Coach K? This is the run that saved Coach Keats. Because, I mean, you think about it. How many people were calling for his job if at the end of the regular season? And then somehow he wins the tournament. I feel like if they didn't win that tournament, he's looking for another job somewhere.
Yeah.
That's true. Carsen?
I mean, yeah, it's magical. Anytime an 11 seed makes it this far, it's magical. And the fact that when is the last they lost? Since before the ACC tournament,
They lost 3 of their last 4 regular season games before the ACC tournament. Yeah, they came in on a losing streak.
Right, but now they've just turned it around out of nowhere. Kevin Keats has done a phenomenal job. He coached a masterclass yesterday. The way they were playing drop coverage just completely, and that's the reason I think that John Shire has to answer some questions. He didn't know what to do. Kevin Keats went into drop coverage, and Shire didn't adjust. I don't know if he knew how to adjust. So yeah, Kevin Keats has just done so phenomenal. DJ Burns is incredible, sensational. He's probably my favorite player left in the tournament. I love him. Not saying he's the best player. He's just my personal favorite. DJ Horn is, DJ Horn gets the ball and gets a bucket, and that's just what it is every time. Also, DJ Burns is an incredible passer, which I didn't know before this run. His vision is incredible. He's just so fun to watch. And Kevin Keats has done such a great job of gelling this team together and making all the pieces work in the places that they need to work. That's what Duke couldn't do. Duke, nobody will argue that Duke wasn't the more talented team. Not a single person. But we didn't have the pieces that we need, or we had the pieces. We didn't have the glue. They didn't fit in the right places. So yeah, NC State has done a phenomenal job.
And State wasn't going to be denied last night. I mean, you could tell in that second half they were. It's like Des said. I mean, we got so used to Duke being the team that you expected them to win. I mean, the last 2 times that State and Duke have played, State has out-hustled them. And that's something that always disappointed me, was that Coach K, when those teams, you could tell he wanted those guys to hustle. He wanted those guys to get on the deck. And these Duke teams the last, 3-4 years just haven't had that.
That's what we noticed in the Carolina matchups, that the Carolina kids were the ones that were diving on the floor for loose balls and stuff, and the kids are just kind of standing there or whatever. This all goes back to the whole soft theme or whatever. Like, this theme didn't just magically appear because we thought it'd be funny. Like, it's real. Like, this Shire has an issue with that. With State, Carsen said earlier he thinks State's playing the best basketball in the country. I'm sorry, buddy, that's UConn.
Sorry.
I don't know what happened.
Case number 2.
I was in the car listening to that game, and it was like 28-23 or something at the half. I got out the car for 5 minutes and got back in, and they had went on a 30-0 run. I'm just like, did UNLV start playing for UConn? Like, what just happened here? UConn's on a UNLV tip. State, now I've heard the Valvano comparisons to 83. I was alive in 83. That was really my first recollection of college basketball. I was 5-6 years old. If they finish this, then yes, because they would have gone through Purdue and Zach Edey, which you could make comparisons to Virginia and Ralph Sampson, who they had to beat in the Final Four in '83. Ralph Sampson was the defending National Player of the Year, 2-time winner. Zach Edey's going to be the same thing. It's 2 7-footers. And then if they beat UConn in the national championship, the other 1 seed, that's similar to them beating Houston in '83, who was the overall number 1 seed in the tournament, and was literally no one picked State to beat Houston. Like, it was David and Goliath. It's setting up that way again, which is what's making it kind of fun. So I'm really hoping Alabama doesn't mess this up. I'm really hoping State can get past Purdue so we can get UConn, NC State on Monday night.
And Peyton was on the show on Friday afternoon, from Everything College Basketball, and he made a point that DJ Burns is almost like the Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, he's the biggest baby face. It seems like everyone seems to be rooting for him. If you missed that clip, it is now on our social medias that you can go follow at @OwlPocket_TRSR on Instagram, or OwlPocket Michael Davis on Facebook. You can see where Peyton said that. So I wanted to post to you guys. I mean, we're all ACC fans. Of course, our teams are out, but the only ACC team left is NC State. Do you think, and do you want NC State to actually win the Final Four? Carsen?
Yeah. I hope they do. I think that would be incredible. The story alone would be incredible, but I don't think it's going to happen. Purdue is a really good matchup for them. They've got playmakers, and then they've got Zach Edey, who, if anybody in the country can contain DJ Burns, it's Zach Edey. So, I think that the run is over. I think we're going to get a Purdue UConn matchup, which is going to be so fun. I mean, it's, as basketball fans, we're like, that's awesome. It's going to be a great game. I would love NC State to make it there. I really hope they do, but I don't really see a path for them anymore. I didn't see a path for them for a long time, though. So, who knows?
Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Carson said. I mean, you'd love to see it happen, but I think in reality, you realize you've got Purdue, but if I've learned anything from watching college sports over the years, anything can happen. I mean, I'd love to see Kevin Keats do a Jim Valvano on, but I think their run comes to an end one way or the other this weekend.
Des?
In my heart, I want them to do it because it's great TV and it makes our jobs easier to have an ACC team still doing this. But I gotta State fans. I don't want to jinx you. I'm going to pick against you because I've been doing it the past 3 weeks and it's been working apparently for you. So I'm just going to think you're going to get slaughtered by Purdue, and that'll be the end of it. I will say that I don't know how they're doing this. I really don't, because they're basically just playing through Burns, and Burns' whole thing all year was that he couldn't really stay on the floor for long periods of time. And somewhere around the ACC tournament, I don't know if he started drinking vitamin water or something, but he just started playing 30 plus minutes a game, and nobody saw that happening. So, I mean, that's kind of, and then Horn kind of got on, and Diarra. Diarra is one of my favorite players in all of college basketball. Just his motor and his knowing his story that he's doing all this without eating all day because of Ramadan and all this other stuff. He's always in the right place. Like, he's always in the right place. So, who's the guard? Their 3-point shooting guard?
Horn.
No, not
or
Horn.
O'Connell.
O'Connell is always in the right place, hitting threes. Keats is making the adjustments. If they can get past Purdue, man, anything's possible. But I'm not going to irritate the State fans and switch ships or whatever. I'm going to stay in the lane of picking against them to help you guys out. State gets blown out by 35 by Purdue.
so Des is like using this.
Yeah.
Oh, counter.
I thought about it watching the Duke State game. I was like, I picked against State every single damn weekend that we've done this, and they've proven me wrong every time. I don't want to start picking them now because then the State fans are going to turn against me. So I'm just going to keep picking whoever State's playing against and hope that the curse keeps working.
I think State fans have already turned on you.
Oh yeah. Well,
comments from
we
last
have like
week.
a truce. We have like a truce going on. Carolina fans and State fans, we kind of got a truce. The Carolina and Duke fans Duke's going through it right now. The Duke fan base, they don't know what to do. They're just lashing out at everybody. So like they're a little upset. They're mad that the Carolina fans aren't mad. Like, they expected us to be still mad about losing, and we weren't as mad as they wanted us to be, which made them even madder. So, who knows?
I still
But
think there's some bitterness, but it's okay. We'll
we're fine.
table
There-
that. We'll
There,
table that for another
there
time.
definitely is, but
We're fine. I mean, we didn't lose the state. We didn't lose. We get put out by state in the tournament. Like that probably would hurt a little
You
bit
did
more.
lose to State in the ACC tournament.
Not in the
which
big
allowed
dance
State to
though. That's
get
what I'm
here in
saying.
the
Like
first
they
place.
didn't end our season. Like that would probably hurt more than anything else if State ended our season in March. That's hard, man. That's
To
hard.
me, like, because I've seen Duke lose and end their season to UNC, and of course that was Coach K's last game. That was painful. Like, admittedly, that was one of the worst pains I've ever felt as a sports fan.
yeah.
NC State, with just how miraculous this is, you got buddies of yours, I've got family of mine, Trevor Everett from the 2 Pointers podcast. Like, I don't think in his lifetime he's seen this. And now all of a sudden it's happening. So, like, yeah, it hurts to lose to an ACC division rival. But at the same time, I don't feel any, like, ill will towards NC State because they earned that victory. They did. They won. Kudos. Congrats to them. And it's going to be a great matchup when we get DJ Burns versus Zach Edey in the Final Four. My pick's still Purdue to win it all. That's been my pick from the entire get-go. Carson, as we go out in the final 4 teams, who do you think has the best chance to win?
UConn. I don't see anybody that can compete with them anymore. And I was talking to a friend of mine about it. They've blown every team out, and the only problem I can see with UConn is that they've blown every team out, because sometimes when you haven't played a close game, then when you do face an opponent that can hang with you and you're in a close game, you kind of don't know how to handle it. I don't know if there's anybody that can have a close game with them, though.
Maybe.
I don't even know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I could see them. I could honestly see them beating Purdue by 15.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at
And
all.
I would not be surprised. It's crazy. They're one of the best college basketball teams I've seen since I started watching, which was around 2014, 2013. I mean, I don't really know a better college basketball team that I've seen.
They're entering 90 UNLV 09 Carolina status in terms of tournament and margin of victory. Like they've got the record right now for most double-digit victories in a row or something ever in the tournament. I think they're at like 10 or 13 or something like that. So that 30-0 run, like that doesn't happen. That does not happen at any level, really. So for me, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, they're at Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon level. Like they're trying to get to UNLV level. Like 1990 UNLV is the best college basketball team I've ever seen in my life to this day. And really 91 was better. They just lost to Duke in the Final Four. So they didn't complete the repeat. But even in that game, to go to Carson's point about teams that are used to blowing teams out and then getting a close game, that game was close the entire time in 91. And what turned it was Greg Anthony fouled out at the very end. So there was no point guard on the floor for UNLV. And that set up the final sequence where they couldn't get off a good shot. They only needed a 2, and they kept trying to shoot a 3, and Duke wins the game. I can see UConn going out that way to an NC State if they keep the game close throughout. But if you let UConn get up 15 plus, it's over. Like they and Purdue, but really UConn, they do not let off the gas. Like they are on all game. Like they are in your pocket all game. Carolina played UConn earlier this year, and that's the only team that Carolina lost to where I was like, they're just better than us. Like they're just a better team in every aspect of the game.
Yeah.
They're just better. And that's the only team that we lost to that I felt that way about. And UConn has doubled down on it. So I'd pick UConn too.
Zach, who's your pick to win it all?
Well, I'm going to go. I picked UConn at the beginning of this, and I'm going to stick with it. And it's like Des said, you look at the teams that they're entering, 1990 UNLV, 09 UNC. I was too young to remember, UNLV, UNC I remember very well. But one team that, Des didn't mention that, probably going to pain him to say, I'm thinking this team is very similar to the 2001 Duke team that won it all. I mean, they won all their tournament games by multiple digits. The only thing
that's fair. Yeah.
The only the only adversity they ran into was in that Final Four against Maryland. They're down 22 points and somehow won by 11. I mean, I feel like we could see something like that.
It could, and this is going to be an incredible Final Four. So it's also going to be an incredible week for Out Pocket. There's so much going on. UFL started this past weekend. NBA and NHL in the thick of their playoff race. MLB started last week. We're in the midst of the Final Four. We just are going to have that tournament this weekend. WrestleMania is this weekend. Like, there is so much stuff to talk about. So you'll have to tune in for your lunch break every day. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 12:30 for Out of Pocket.
Did you watch Rivals on A&E yet? The Roman Reigns one yet from last night?
I have not.
It's 2 hours long. By the time you get to the end of it, you're going to be totally convinced Roman Reigns is not losing that belt anytime soon. Like, just the way he lays this out, they're not. It doesn't even make business sense.
So I got that on my watch list. They also dropped the Bray Wyatt documentary this morning. So I'm gonna go have to watch some Bray Wyatt too.
Is that on Peacock?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on
I'll check that out
Peacock.
tonight.
Should be good. So yeah, stay with us. 12:30 Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday, I'll have Drop the Mic in the Cat Cave as well for you. But yeah, subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel so you don't miss any of this stuff. For myself, Michael Davis, Carsen Williams, Zach Colburn, and producer Desmond Johnson, this has been Out of Pocket. We will see you tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, for Out of Pocket.